Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got David Mahoney, and we're going to be talking about the Trump White House dinner assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and also the death of David Wilcock, who, alongside other scientists, had been disappearing, assassinated. Obviously, they're talking and exposing the spiritual aspect of the Matrix, and this is why the elites know what's going on with, what's happening with the solar flash and things like that. David, what do you think about this?
Oh, there's a lot to talk about, Nick, and good to see you again, buddy. Where do you want to go first? Do you want to do the Trump assassination attempt? Do you want to do David Wilcock? Do you want to do the missing scientist? You choose one. There's three great topics today.
Yeah, they are. Let's go with the Trump White House assassination.
Okay,
yeah.
What do I think? Well, it's a strange one. It's the first time he's attending this dinner with all of these people in the room. He normally doesn't attend it. So I started looking at some of the numbers and started looking at some of the data. But because it was a strange attempt, because I don't think the shooter was anywhere near him, judging by the video footage I've seen, because it's coming from that side and the other side. I don't think he was actually in any danger, although I might be mistaken on this. But I came across a video, Nick, which I'm going to share if you give me a screen share in a second.
Oh, yeah.
That all the numbers have been decoded. And this is where it gets really interesting, because I'm not sure if you remember, it's the same hotel at Reagan. There was an assassination attempt on Reagan in the same hotel. It's got a very unusual address. There's some very good numerology associated with it. And some of the numbers that are stacking up and some of the coincidences are a little bit too coincidental for my comfort and liking. So I'm going to play this video for your audience as well, so we can exactly see what I'm talking about, because in my opinion, there's something else going on here. And I think there's a secret message that's being passed down and needs to be decoded.
Yeah, let's have a look at what you got.
Yeah. I'm just bringing it up now, buddy. Share that one there, get the sound on, and away we go. Have a listen to this, and it's about 3 minutes long, so let it play, and I'm going to go silent.
Okay.
And Grace here. Now, this is breaking and a serious prophetic alert. Last night, shots were fired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the first one President Trump ever attended. It occurred at the Washington Hilton Hotel. This runs way deeper than you think, and I'm going to show you. So 45 years ago, on March 30th, 1981, President Reagan, they attempted to assassinate him in front of the same hotel, the Washington Hilton Hotel. Now, this attempt, the shots fired here, happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. 45 years separates these two events. President Trump was the 45th president. He's also the 47th president. His presidencies equal 9/11. 4 plus 5 is 9. 4 plus 7 is 11. 911. The address of the Washington Hilton Hotel where this occurred is 1919 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. 9/11 is within the address. Now, the Ayatollah Ali Khomeini, the former leader of Iran, was killed on February 28th on our calendar, but it was the 11th day of the 9th month on the Islamic calendar, or 9/11, when President Trump ordered that operation. Now, this year, 2026, Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, is set to begin on 9/11, September 11th. The 2-year window in which we are seeing all of this transpire, 2025 to 2027, equals 911. 2 plus 2 plus 5 is 9. 2 plus 2 plus 7 is 11. Now, 25 days separates the date the assassination attempt on President Reagan happened from the date that this happened at the shots fired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. So President Reagan was March 30th, 1981. President Trump was April 25th, 2026. 25 days separates these two independent dates. This year happens to be the 25th year anniversary of 9/11 that happened in 2001. And this year is also the 250th, with has 25 in it, anniversary of America. Are we getting what is happening here? These are serious times we're in, and I'm telling you, the enemy is attempting to stop the rededication of this nation back to God. Ultimately, this is what is the crux of all of this. The enemy and the kingdom of darkness and their disciples do not want the nation rededicated, and this is why we're watching these events. Also within a U.S.-Iran conflict paradigm, we are going to watch these events unfold, and I believe this is the first event of a few that we are going to watch attempt to unfold like this, because the enemy does not want the nation rededicated. The church needs to rise up, spiritually armor up, fight this war right now on those grounds. So continue to be in the Word of God every single day.
What do you think of that, Nick?
Wow, very interesting. She got the numerology really well, and everything, and the timing and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? Or do you, I mean, some people say it was staged, but then when I look at Melania's face, it just, it just looked very real,
Well, yeah, but there was a long delay reaction. I don't think the Secret Service were very on top form. A lot of the Secret Service guys are trained specifically for that, and they react very quickly. It seemed like the shots were fired, and there was a good few seconds delay before anybody was on top of the president and the first lady to evacuate them. The numerology that this girl was talking about all stacks up. Now, the chances are everything stacking up like that are astronomical. There's something like 44 million to 1 where you can actually get all of those numbers in one place at one time. That ties into 25-year anniversary, going back to Ronald Reagan's attempt in March 1981. I remember it, actually. I can remember seeing footage of it. It's all very strange. And is it just a pure coincidence? Is there hidden coding in there? We've known that over the last 5 to 6 years, certainly since COVID, we became aware of all of this, Nick, of the codes and secrets that they drop in there so people can understand what's going on. Now, we also know that the military-industrial complex has certain rogue elements of it that are trying to do nefarious acts that have done forever. So although the president's running it, he's at the helm, there are some rogue elements of the U.S. government that do not want him there. It's the billions and trillions of dollars that they use for building these underground bunkers and all of the secret ops that need to be funded. The American people can't find out about it, because if they did, they just would stop it. Trillions and trillions of dollars going into black operations, including a lot of these underground bunkers and bases, new technology, space technology. And this will lead us on to our next topic very nicely: secret technology that's been funded by these underground rogue elements of the deep industrial complex, the military complex, that President Trump has been at the helm trying to stamp out, trying to weed them all out. I'll show you the next video, Nick, which is explaining all about these missing scientists. Again, this is all theoretical, folks. We can't prove any of this. But every now and again, what I've come to understand and learn is a lot of what we do is all about the feeling, and when you get it confirmed, you need affirmation and confirmation that, oh, that feels true. So have a listen to this, and then we'll have another little chat, Nick. You like this one?
The scientists have gone missing is because they were all a part of building the military secret weapon, Rods from God, aka Project Thor. It's a satellite hovering in space with rods the size of a telephone pole, around 20 feet long and 1 foot in diameter. And it is made with one of the densest metals on Earth. It's called tungsten. Also, I do know that that metal has an extremely high melting point, allowing it to make its way through the atmosphere. It strikes with the force of a nuclear bomb, but has 0 nuclear fallout. It's all based upon kinetic energy. The most commonly described version of this is that it's a satellite that's hanging in a lower Earth orbit, around 500 kilometers up, that carries a magazine of these rods. It's said with just 6 to 8 of these satellites spread across a given orbital plane, any point on Earth's surface could be targeted within 12 to 15 minutes. So just because you take one out does not mean that you're completely covered from a specific area, because how it works is they're just going off where it's orbiting at that exact time, and then when it's over that spot, that's when they drop the metal rod. So yeah, these people were supposedly working on this. Now, here's the thing that gets tricky. Maybe do these people know this is about to be a rod of God warfare? Do other countries have this orbiting also? Are they going into hiding? Are they going in bunkers? Now, a perfect example to get a visual on how this works. There's a G.I. Joe movie that showed an example of this weapon and how it works. I'll play the clip.
Now, you're looking at an advanced weapons system we call Project Zeus. There are 7 Zeus satellites orbiting Earth. Each satellite contains 10 hollow platinum tubes filled with a tungsten rod.
Zeus, satellite 1A, approaching London. Ordnance live and loaded. Awaiting drop authorization.
Now, to direct a rod to its target, we don't launch it or fire it.
Satellite 1A, we have remote launch authorization. 3, 2, 1, drop.
A rod touches down 8 times faster than a bullet, and with a force significantly greater than a nuclear warhead. None of the fallout. All of the fun.
Hit by the hostage.
The reason the scientists have gone missing is because they
No, I like that theory, Nick. Have you heard about the rods of God before?
No, I don't quite understand it. So he was saying that there were scientists working on these rods.
Right. There's about 13 scientists that have gone missing in the last 12 months. And last week, the congressional hearing started to investigate it, and they said, we need to investigate what's happened to all of these scientists that were all working on covert military operation technology. We're going to get into it now in another second, because David Wilcock was actually part of that. So all of these scientists have gone missing, and they don't actually know where they've gone. One of them was found dead in his tester, but he was in there for about a year before they found him. So let me see if there's any more on this one. Yeah. No,
So explain, what are these rods meant to do?
Right, these rods are a super destructive weapon. Like, we saw satellite technology, and do you remember over Hawaii when they took out?
Yeah, but what are they? When they say they're very dangerous or they're very powerful, powerful and dangerous against the deep state or against the people? Because I understand that David Wilcock, especially, was a good guy.
Yes, he was. But okay, let's go back a stage. General Flynn, you've heard of him, haven't you? You know General Flynn.
I've interviewed him, yeah.
Yes, exactly. I have as well a couple of times. General Flynn released a tweet recently saying there was a rogue element of the American military that wants total destruction. They are inbound and inbent on getting total destruction and getting everything back on track. What Trump's been doing is unraveling the deep state. He's been exposing him, and he's been getting America back on his feet again by cutting off the snake, which would be the financial commitment, and such as places like the Ukraine and other countries in Southeast Asia, which have always been filtering them out as well. The drug trade, for example, what he's been doing in South America. So these element of rogue high-up generals inside of the U.S. military complex have access to these weapons, which is what happened in Hawaii. It's also happened in several other countries, where they've used these instruments of satellites that from the sky, which are energy weapons. Now, this weapon that they've developed up there, called the Rods of God, is basically a doomsday device. It's more powerful than an atomic weapon, but there's no nuclear fallout because it falls from 500 kilometers up in space, and the velocity that it hits creates some sort of thermal reaction when it hits the ground, and combined with the oxygen, that's what makes this huge explosion. Apparently, tungsten steel is very heat resistant, but so they have this technology already. The scientists have been working on it, and it's also, a lot of it is also tied into Project Bluebeam, which is where they're trying to tell the entire public that we're all being attacked by aliens. There is a malevolent force of extraterrestrial life form that is here to overthrow and overlord us, become an overlord. Now, these scientists, such as David Wilcock, were very much aware of what the true nature and the truth was behind a lot of this extraterrestrial and UFO sightings. And they were all about to start talking about it. Because if the government do launch one of these attacks, which is called Operation Bluebeam, using very, very sophisticated technology of holographic imagery. And we don't even know it's real or not because it looks so good. Look at how AI looks so good. We're seeing AI-inspired videos in the sky around us. They're going to tell us that this is an AI invasion. And what do we need to do? We all need to stay in our homes. We all need to stop traveling. We can't get on airplanes. We need to get into 15-minute cities. We need to get in evacuation centers. We need to agree to digital ID so we can see who the aliens are that are living amongst us. And they're saying these scientists knew all about this plan, which is why they were all about to go public with it, getting together and joining forces and releasing all of their evidence and documentation more or less at the same time. So this rogue element of the US government had decided it had to do something about it and started doing something about it by last year by eliminating these people. That's where we're going with this. So it all ties into, and also Wilcock, who will play his video 2 days before his death, was not suicidal, mate.
Yeah, no, we know he wasn't because we know he wasn't because he kept telling us that he was not suicidal. And also, I want to understand, what are the rods meant to do? I mean, how is that supposed to help the situation? And that's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, they're going to say that this weapon is from the aliens. Imagine if they take out a city. Let's say they take out Paris, like you saw London being totally annihilated. If they take out somewhere like this and say that technology we've never seen before because it's all been developed covertly and it's all hanging in these satellites above us, they're going to say, sorry, my door was slamming the wind. They're going to say, the alien force that is threatening upon us has now destroyed, let's say,
but
Paris.
Why would the good scientists want to create, harm to the public?
Well, you never know the whole story, Nick. They're going to say, we need you to manufacture a very small piece. We need you to manufacture this, whatever that is.
Right.
So we need you to what am I going to do with that? You don't need to know about it. Nobody ever gives you the real full picture. This is how the whole industrial complex works. People like Bob Lazar, who was working on reverse engineering alien technology, he wrote a book back in the late 70s and 80s called Alien Liaison. And he was one of the first pioneers to start talking about how they would take one scientist and just give him a tiny little piece to work on. He never knew what the whole picture was. They didn't take you into one room and say, look, this is a UFO. Let's have a look, guys. This is how you fly. They say, no, take this, work on this. Everybody was compartmentalized, is how they say it. So all of these scientists had documentation on this, technology on that, and they obviously all found out what they were doing is manufacturing and helped develop some doomsday device like that. So the government wants us into 15-minute cities and detention camps. They want us stupid. They want us dumb. They don't want us to wake up. They want digital ID. They want us to eat synthesized foods and meats. The plan that Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland. That's where they want us. They want us to be like the Matrix. They just look at us as batteries, as slaves, to make their lives more and more profitable.
Yeah. For what I understand, David, is David Wilcock especially was teaching and exposing, the truth of what the elites know and what they don't want us to know. And that's how the sun is evolving, and it's sending human Earth and Earth frequency through solar flares and apparently a solar flash, which is going to upgrade the atoms that make our upper reality from 3D into 5D and increase consciousness. And the veil will be so thin, almost no veil, where we would see the full spectrum of reality here on Earth, which is what the end times is. But this end times isn't the end times. For us, it's the end times of the deep state, because the deep state, they operate in a very dense reality because they operate in low frequency, very dense, full of corruption and fear. And they won't be able to exist in the new frequency that the Earth is moving into because of our sun and our Earth and our consciousness evolving. And they want to stop that through fear and digital ID, collecting our biometrics, and especially your energetic aura, your field. They want to track and tether your frequency field onto their system so that you are hooked onto their hologram simulation, so that they could trap your soul energetically. And the way we stop doing this is becoming aware of what they're doing, so that we don't give consent to them, because you're giving spiritual consent by you accepting the digital ID. So we have to be aware that we do not give consent to this. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, they never expected so many people to be awoken by all of this. They think, the truth is, Nick, most people prefer to be asleep and stupid. They don't want to have to think about this. They don't want to have to think about, where have I really come from? Is my genetic marker stones really from extraterrestrial, off-planet ancestry? Or, they'd rather believe in the Quran. They'd rather believe in the Bible. They'd rather believe what they know now. They don't want to have to face facts and think, maybe the guy next to me is some sort of draconian off-planet alien life form that is just here to suck all the energy out of me because I've been living in fear. Can't pay my mortgage this month. Oh, my boss, I hate my boss, but I've got to go to work because I need the money. I don't have enough money to retire. Got to get a pension. Oh, my wife's going to be angry. My kids need to go to school. Got to get food paid. Where's the mortgage coming from? They keep us all like that. Most people would just prefer to live in ignorance because they're in a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
The only day off they get really is Saturday, and they're back at it on Monday. Today's Monday. They'll be back at it again. Meetings, Google meetings, maps, projects, graphs, trying to get everything done. What's happening? World economics is going up and down, up and down. Straits of Hormuz, are they open or closed? All of these people that just want to keep us living in the matrix. Now, I heard a very good story, and I'm going to tell you about this. Can't say where I heard it from, but it was basically to do with a super yacht. There was a guy on a super yacht, and he was very high up in the climate change group, and they had a private party on the super yacht, and somebody on the party said to him, hey, this is not exactly fitting in with your green policy about eco fuel and wind farms and all of this renewable energy when you're sitting on a super yacht cruising around the Mediterranean burning 1,000 gallons of fuel an hour. And this guy turned around, who's very high up, turned around to my friend, and he said, yeah, that's not for us. That's for them. That's for those lot. And he gave my friend a look saying, you're one of those lot because you actually believe in this climate change and it's pollution and we need to cut back on gasoline. They're cruising around thousands of gallons per day, on a super yacht in the Caribbean last winter. So they know fine well what the truth is, but they keep designing these nefarious, I would say, false flag events, such as shootings in hospitals and libraries and movie theaters. You can't go out now because you're going to get shot. Back in the 60s, Nick, there was a hillside strangler that was working out in California, but people in Boston were terrified to go outside. And do you know how far California to Boston is? 3,000 miles. It's like a totally different country, more or less, if you took it in European spec. But because of fear had been pumped so successfully through the television, Boston and various other cities, New York and Boston, etc., they're all terrified to go out. People were locking their doors all of a sudden, whereas they never locked them before. This is how fear works. They pump fear into the population. So people like you and people like me and people like our viewers, Nick, who reject this to be continued living in fear. We reject everything that they throw at us. We don't believe anything we see on the television. We don't believe anything that's in the press. It's probably the opposite. This Artemis spacecraft that went up and blasted off around the moon. Yeah, I didn't believe that for a second. I never believed in 9/11. I never believed in Building 7 just fell down. I never believed that the Malaysia flight just disappeared. There was nothing going on with that. I never believed that Obama actually caught Osama bin Laden and held him for a few hours, and then he released his body into the ocean overboard before any independent scientist could come and examine his DNA or a hair follicle or a little piece of saliva to independently confirm that actually was Osama bin Laden, the guy that spent billions, who destroyed the Twin Towers by orchestrating attacks from all over America simultaneously and planning them all while he was inside a cave in Afghanistan, working on very limited technology at the time. It wasn't the same sort of stuff as we had now. But we're yet to believe that these imbeciles that couldn't even land an airplane, trying to fly something at 600 and 700 kilometers per hour at a building that you're going past it so fast, is going to be the story that people believe in. Then there's passports that didn't vaporize, but all the other planes, they vaporized when they hit the floor, like Flight 93 just outside the field in Pennsylvania. It vaporized every suitcase, piece of fuselage, all of the passengers, all of the seats, all of the cabling. It vaporized, even though it was standard kerosene on there. It's just jet fuel, which is basically glorified diesel. It's like lamp fuel when you go camping. Does that vaporize your lamp? Does it vaporize a table when you spill it on there by accident when you're refilling it? The lies that they've been spinning us for years, Nick, the veil is being lifted. We're seeing through it. We can see the bullshit. And that's what they're terrified of, because as soon as we stop producing this fear and lack, this is when they get into trouble, because we are their gasoline. We are their food supply. We are their source of energy. And this is why it's very important to keep waking people up.
Absolutely. And I can see right now there's two Earths overlapping, and the new frequency of Earth is it won't be able to hold the corruption. And this is why we're seeing all the systems slowly collapse. Nothing's making sense. Everything's all over the place. Some of us feel that everything that's going on is background noise, and more of us are being tuned in internally. We're looking for peace. We're looking for freedom. We're looking for sovereignty, but I can feel this shift. Did you want to show us a video with David Wilcock?
Yeah, well, we got one more just to share with your audience. Let me just get rid of that. But there's those three topics are all tied in. Another assassination on Trump. Is it really an assassination attempt, or was it something else? And where is this one now? We've done that one. This one I'm going to play. We'll talk about it. I mean, I'm not sure it was, Nick. It was too far away. It wasn't orchestrated. It wasn't really a threat to me. The press have gone with it. It's good publicity for Trump. But This is David Wilcock.
The man who introduced millions of people to the idea that governments have been hiding the truth about extraterrestrial life died this past Sunday. He was 53 years old. And depending on who you ask, he was either one of the most important voices in the disclosure movement or one of its most polarizing. Before UAP hearings were happening in Congress, disclosure was a word politicians use without embarrassment. David Wilcock was talking about it loudly, passionately, and to anyone who would listen. 4 New York Times best-selling books, 600 television appearances, 43 million YouTube views, and all at a time when that conversation was career-ending for most people. He was also complicated. He claimed to be the reincarnation of Edgar Casey. He said he was in telepathic contact with extraterrestrials. Public falling out with Gaia TV ended in lawsuits. Serious UAP researchers felt his work made the subject harder to take seriously. The day before he died, he posted, "I've had some very intense stuff going on this weekend. Always remember that the Creator is within, and we live in a loving universe." He went live one last time that night. The next morning, a 911 call went out from his Colorado home. Deputies arrived and found him outside in crisis. And reports indicate within minutes of their arrival, he took his own life. A human being who spent his life trying to pull back a curtain he believed was hiding the truth died struggling. David Wilcock was not a perfect messenger, but he was a messenger. And for millions of people, he was the first one. Rest
nice
well,
video. Rest well, David. I agree.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, I think, he was talking about, obviously, the awakening and the shift, the frequency shift.
Exactly.
And it is, I think that is the most scientific secret that the elites are hiding from us. And that's why they're pushing fear, because if we push fear to us soul-bearing people, we then project that reality that they want us to project through fear, keeping atoms dense around us, keeping them into 3D or delaying it, because we have the power through consciousness, and they use fear and, a fear porn to keep us keeping this simulation as dense as possible. So this is my theory as well of it. Can you hear me, David?
I agree. My Wi-Fi went a bit. Yeah, my Wi-Fi went a bit weird there, Nick. But that's what they want, because if you're living in fear and you're actually worried about paying your mortgage and worried about the money, you are manifesting and manufacturing the energy to continue that, because that's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about, oh, my God, I'm going to have problems getting the money to pay all my bills. Oh, I can't do it. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
But if you change your attitude to say, I'm not worried, it's all going to happen. There's something's going to come out of this, and I'll be fine. I'll get it all done. But at the end of the day, Nick, if we see through it and keep our optimism high, and every time we see one of these events, we can say, listen, I'm going to question the truth about this. Wilcock was not suicidal, but they're telling us he was. We don't know exactly what happened, how he took his own life, but he wasn't that. We know that these scientists have all gone missing. The technology that were working was all for the US military. Then they opened a congressional hearing to try and find out what's going on. They're not going to give away the truth. They're just appeasing the public. Yes. Oh, we'll look. Yeah, we'll have a look. Yeah, it'll be like the JFK Commission. Well, we'll look at the truth of what happened there. It's just a report of one lie and just filling it in and all the blanks, and then he gives it to the right people, and they say, yeah, that's what we'll tell the stupid idiots that we call the public. We'll tell the general voters. So keep your optimism open. Keep your eyes and feel into these stories when they do come across your attention. I can see through them straight away. It's like, I know what that's about. I'm not going to take any notice. I'm just going to stay doing my own thing and staying in my own high vibrational energy and enjoying my life, cracking on with it.
Absolutely. David, thank you very much for sharing everything with us today.
Are you there, Nick?
Yes. Can you hear me? I know there's a slight connection.
Yeah, my internet's fading. Yeah. Let's call it a day before conversations.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, David. Thank you. Bye-bye.